just gonna kind of go over the interface real quick. The software of Jan's is kind of interchangeable along all the different consoles. So our main Sanctuary, Sanctuary's new building, Orange Park, St. John's, they all use this software. The difference is the console itself, and this is just a USB attached console. Think of it as like a keyboard. So you can have a Mac, a Windows, you can have all these different things, but the keyboard's, you know, always the same really. On this, we just have different size keyboards. So with every Jan's Vista console, you're always going to have these 4 modifier buttons at the top. And let me go to my console view real quick. I can click and drag this over here. With my 4 modifier buttons at the top, if you watch, this back over here, when I hit those 4 modifier buttons, it'll actually tell me what it changes the buttons to. So it modifies the actual setting of the current button to, like right now when I hit blue, it makes all the buttons go to jump buttons. When I hit green, it changes them to releases. When I go to yellow, it changes them either to new or edit. It should. So if nothing's in there, it'll say new. And then when I go to red, it's a selector. When I'm not hitting the button, they're in the settings that you guys have set them to. Default is play. So if I have this cue list playing right now and I need to get rid of it and just take it off the look, if I hold down my green, it changes that top button of it to release, and I hit it and it releases the cue list. And it pulls it away. So if you ever figure what the modifier buttons do, just hold them down. It's kind of like holding the shift button. It doesn't do anything until you hit another button. But it will tell you up here what it's going to do. So you can actually change. I mean, on this, when I hold green, it actually tells you that middle button, this button right here, is skip back. It's not a release. So it is worth checking sometimes before you actually hit the button. So those are the modifier buttons. Those come in handy. We also have pages. Now, this morning when I came in, we were actually on a page up, and you can see it changes over everything. It changes over the console. This is what Fuse uses. They're on page 2. When I roll up anything, nothing works, because that's their settings. They don't put the stage lights in on their page. So if you ever come in and you're like, what the crap, it's working, there's some different stuff here, I don't know what it is, try paging up and down. You'll actually see there's 4 pages of different things. You guys are always on page 1. So now your faders are up but nothing's working. It's called fader gating. You just got to pull them back down and re-grab the fader. So when I pull them back down and come back up, they're good to go. So paging is a big deal. That can kind of confuse a lot of people. Pretty simple concept. You just got to take that into account. If it's not working, check the pages. Another thing that can happen if the console's not working is that the console went unresponsive, if the computer went to sleep or it got locked or whatnot, and I know that happens a lot. Test runs into that a lot. And literally you'll move the faders on the console, you hit buttons, sometimes the buttons won't be lit, sometimes it won't even respond to on here. Basic procedure on this is unplug the USB from the back, plug it back in. It won't show that because it won't know the console's there. And then go to console and rescan for USB devices. Once you hit that, you're going to notice the console's going to go into a hold mode. It's going to recapture, and then it'll be good to go. So let's go into some basic how to use the software itself, not the console. The software is very visual. It uses a graphical user interface, and every light is displayed in your fixture chooser. Up at the top you have 6 menus. You have a patch menu. You'll never have to go to that. I'd recommend staying out of there. It's kind of dangerous. You can actually mess up quite a bit of things. Nice. Your next one over from there is console. Console view is how you can view your console, but not only that, how you can lay out different things in your console itself. By clicking and dragging anything on the side, if I want, floor right now is right here. So when I bring up my floor fader, it brings up the floor lights. Say I don't like that. I can actually take floor, click and drag it. Actually, sorry. Find it over here, click and drag it. Well, you're locked. I'm locked. And I'll give you guys this password too, and I'll go through that in just a second. I'm not used to locking it like that. Alright, so now you can see I can click and drag it and move it. And now, this fader doesn't work anymore, but this one is actually your floor lighting. Okay, so you can lay it out kind of how you like it. We don't recommend relaying out these. Because these are kind of set and everyone knows where they are. Yeah. So you can see I can just pull stage back in and put it there, and it changes it all back over. But the stuff along the top you can definitely move around. Midweek you can change this down, so if you say, hey, I need a little more space, I need to put in a cue on top of it, you can actually crunch it down by just clicking and dragging it down. See how that works? And then this button up here becomes available and you can put something in there. So Not that you'll be using that too much, but knowing that you have the ability to customize the console how you want to use it is key, and it makes you more comfortable with the console. That's the biggest thing, is making sure you're comfortable when you run the show.
Is this like a cue? Kind of like setting it up to where it'll...
You have multiple different ways you can run a service. You have queue lists, which contain queues. You have presets, you have groups, you have favorites, you have snapshot, you have a bunch of different things. We mainly use queue lists and groups. And I'm going to go into that in just a second of how you can make those and how you can edit them. But yeah, what you're seeing on the console right now is these are all queue lists. So this queue list right here that says stage is a queue list with one queue, and in that one queue it's labeled active, and in that one queue it just tells those lights to be on. And when I roll up that fader, it plays that one queue. That's all it is. Now this queue list right over here called midweek has 20-something queues in it, and each queue is a part of the service. When I roll up the fader, it's the intensity of that queue. So see, that's the intensity of it, but as I hit play, it changes the look and steps through the queues, but I can always fade it down or fade it up. So that's kind of how it works. It's kind of two different realms that we created. So this is console view, and what we recommend doing is when you're running a service, we recommend just undocking the console by just clicking it and dragging it, move it over to here so you can always see it. The M1 surface is the only surface by Vista that doesn't have this digital screen on the actual console. If you ever go to our main Sanctuary console or whatnot, you're going to actually notice the digital screens are right on the console, so we don't need to see it. But the reason why I pulled over here is so you can actually see what it's listed out. So next view over is your fixture chooser, and your fixture chooser is the live view. It shows you what's going on in your sanctuary or in your environment as it is right now.
That's what you usually keep up, right?
Yep, that's what you usually keep up. Your fixture chooser also goes hand in hand with your timeline view, and we'll explain more of that in a little bit, but that's how you lay out your queues. If you ever worked with audio software, like audio editing software or video editing software, and you see how they lay things out in timeline, it's the same concept. Exactly the same. When you see your queues, it'll be very easy to understand. You have a playback window, so you can actually see if we're in midweek. We can scroll down to midweek. Go by name. There's midweek. We hit the ID, and it'll actually show us the whole list of the queue list itself. And with this, we can actually jump around. So we can say, hey, let's skip a couple queues, go to this one. So if they're starting to change service up on you, playback window is a good window to go to, and that way you're not hitting play a bunch of times to scroll through and get back to that one queue. You can just kind of skip around to it and go to pre-service, whatnot. So, and then your output window, we don't really use this too much. It just kind of tells you what each fixture is doing. That's the same thing as going to the fixture window. So we'll kind of go through fixture window now and how we create and edit queues. Right now we're in tab live. Live tab is, as it stands for, it's live. It's anything that you're doing at the time being. It's not programmed in. So go ahead and release all these queues. If I were to do something and I'd select all these lights, I have my sidebar over here. Right now I'm selected on intensity with a little sun. I can hit all, and it can show me all of these properties up here, just kind of basic. If you click each individual property, it gives you a little more options. So like this one, it's on wheel. These LEDs don't have a wheel. They don't have a color wheel. So I click over to like HSV, which is hue, saturation, and value, and it gives me the option to change its color. Now if you notice, there is no color going up right now. Lights respond to all those properties, and the first property is always intensity. If your intensity is down, even if you select a color, you may see that color right here, but it's not going to output it. So you got to go back to intensity. You can either drag it up, or you can just hit full right here and it'll bring it up.
This is song 1 colors.
Okay, cool. So on this, when we drag over, we can now change all the colors of the LEDs. We're seeing it on here, we're seeing it up there. You can select individual LEDs, change their colors, whatnot. But this is only in live. This isn't programmed in. So what I consider this to be as, like an analogy, is that this is just overriding whatever's going on. So when I hit clear up here, it's gone. It wasn't saved, nothing. Now the Jans Vista software does go by like simple commands like Word and Excel have. Undo, copy, paste, cut, all those. If you know, undo is Control Z. So if I hit Control Z, it actually goes back one step, pulls it all back. If I say, hey, I like this where it's red, green, I want to copy and paste that across the board. So I hit Control C for copy, and I can select everything and hit Control V. And it pastes that.
Do you usually set up the colors and everything in the morning? No. So you just kind of wing it?
It's all been preset already.
Tess will do it, but we're kind of letting you guys do it now if you want. And it's super easy to do. It really is.
So if we don't want to?
If you don't want to, you can just use a set from the previous week. We recommend matching it to, like, this song is, what, your first song?
Yeah.
We recommend matching it. So in this, I would just say, hey, let's grab my truss warmers. And playing around with the software is another good thing to kind of figure out what each icon is. You can zoom in, and it'll tell you that's your truss warmer. That's your right panel, whatnot. So when I hit that, I can select a color on that, and you can actually see the bottom of the trusses. Match that color, and it's just as simple as just going through and
blue.
Yeah, and there's some orange in there, so I guess you could select some orange, you know, whatnot.
Yeah, the green and the
Yeah. So anyhow, now you're not going to do it in live because of course this isn't being saved. It's just being put up there temporarily. Live, really, when you're running Showtime, live is like if you need to pull up a quick light on someone, but you don't want to program it in. It's just like a random thing going on. So, for instance, in the main sanctuary, when Pastor jumps on the floor, we could do that in live because we could just pull up the floor lights real quick, and when he's done, we just hit clear and he hits out. So that would be an instance of using live. You can make your looks in live and save them into something, but there's actually a little bit of easier way to do it, and that is by opening up the queue for editing. So we have our midweek queue right here. If you remember, our yellow modifier is what edits it. If you always forget, just go through your modifiers until you see the edit button. See the edit button says it's up at the very top. When I hit that, it opens up a new tab, and it says midweek Bible study. That is now our current live state, and whenever we change stuff in here, it's going to change it on these queues. So currently it says, see how that blue little highlight right there, the blue little box is around pre? That means whatever we do right now is going to affect pre. Go ahead and play through it. Now pre's highlighted, meaning it's playing.
I'm gonna play it. Do audio.
So now you can see down here in our fixture chooser, our lights are changed. They are actually showing what's up there. If I change anything on pre, it's now programmed in. When I exit out up here, it's gonna say, hey, you changed some things, would you like to save it? When you hit OK, now it's programmed in. If I release that out and play it, truss warmers are red. So that's how we go ahead and edit. So we'll open it back up with yellow, change it back to white, and it's done. So as you go through your cues, you can just highlight over song 1. This is kind of be a hard thing to understand. All the cue lists open in blind. And blind, the reason why they open in blind is so that if you have to open them during an actual service and change to a queue to edit something, it won't switch to that queue on you. That's called blind editing mode, and it's just basically, you know, you're staying with what you're running and you can go out in the future. Not anything you guys are gonna have to worry about, but the way to get out of it so that when you select this queue it actually jumps there is just by hitting link. Now when I jump around, it'll jump with me. So I'm in song, let's say we go to song 1, you go ahead and change your colors on song 1. Go to song 2, change your colors on song 2. Verbals, whatnot, usually we leave those the same, and then you have this final cue. I don't know what this is for. So, simple as that. When you're done, you hit exit, hit save, and you're ready to go. So, yep. Now startup. Do you guys use Intels here or no?
No.
Okay, cool. So we don't have to worry about that?
Nothing, just that's it, because it's too early in the morning.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Intels, no blinders.
Make sure you're always saving your show. You can either do Control-S like a regular file, or you can just hit save right here. There's a little asterisk that goes next to Annex. That asterisk means that it needs to be saved. It means that the stuff has been changed and it hasn't been saved yet.
So can we pull up first from last week?
Do you use midweek?
No, we have
SHM. Okay. So right now you can see midweek's in here. We need to change over here to Sisterhood Morning. So we're gonna go back to our console view. This drop-down menu could be in something else like groups or whatnot. Make sure it's in queue list because you want to select a queue list. And we're gonna go through and find Sisterhood Morning.
SHM.
Just SHM.
Oh, so it's not even alphabetical order.
Not always. always. It goes by actually the number.
Oh, okay.
I can go up here every once in a while and say, hey, arrange my name, and now it's alphabetical. So, Sister of Mornings right there. Click and drag it over and drop it. Now, one of the things I just did and I just realized is that I left midweek open and running. There's no way to release that out now from via the console because I just pulled it off the console. So that's where this playback window over here, I can come over here, have it selected, and hit release.
Or Control Z.
What's that?
Or Control Z.
No, well, Control Z would take it, put it back on the console, and then you could do it.
Okay.
But the playback window, this little button right here is your release button. So if you have something selected and you hit that release, it's going to pull it down. So now when I hit play Sisterhood, plays that file, hit yellow to edit. Now it's open and I can actually go through, make sure I link,
I don't know.
and now I can jump around.
TJ, you there?
Through everything.
T.
All you gotta do is just edit it. Once you're done editing, close out. That one I didn't change anything, so it didn't ask me to save, but usually hit save. So, and then you're ready to go. So.
Make that sound so easy.
So we can get a new mouse.
Really, like, the way that Jan's was actually built for church volunteers, and the thing that they say is the more you use it and the more you play with it, the more you're just going to learn things on the fly.
Pad.
So I can show you the basics, but unless you practice it and stuff, it's the only way you're going to learn it. So, who's running lights today?
Use a sheet of paper.
I am.
You are? So why don't you go ahead and program for
That's
your
probably
service?
why it was
Oh, I
there.
thought she did everything.
Nope.
Nope.
She did?
We left it for you.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Oh, great. I'm just beginning part.
Yay!
Alright.
Okay.
So, your cue list is up and running right now.
Right.
So, you need to go ahead and
we
edit
only
it.
use this side, right?
Yeah, I dragged it in there.
Right.
And so, and real quick on that, when it's locked in the mornings, it'll be locked from editing, so you won't be able to adjust anything like that happened to me with this morning. If you go to File, Lock, and hit that, it will be checked. And you type in the password. The password is A Vista for Annex Vista. The A and the V are uppercased. Yep. And if you ever have a question, Tess knows the password. Capital A, capital V, and then ISTA is lowercase. When you're done, at the end of Sisterhood, just make sure you go back and lock it. It auto fills the password for you. All you gotta do is hit OK.
I forgot my cheat sheet.
And then it'll say locked up here, and you're good to go. And then you just shut down. You just unrelease everything. You can leave it up. You can turn off the monitors if you want, but just don't shut down the software and don't turn off the computer. You gotta leave it all up. But yeah. So when you come in the morning, type that in if you want to go ahead and type it in.
It's 10 o'clock. Do you want to put the Sisterhood logo up?
Still have to
So
program the
cool.
lights.
So you're unlocked now. So
They understand.
we need to go
I don't know what colors to use.
Okay. She said this was your first song.
Okay.
Now I'm just gonna drag over midweek back in here so you can practice. So you'll come up and it'll probably be in this view.
I don't know what colors to choose because I don't know what song.
TJ, seriously, it's not working.
Okay, well this is your first song.
In a
So
bar,
you want to
you
match your
pick,
first
like,
song.
Somebody.
So now we need to open up the queue for editing. So go to console.
It's annoying.
Can you see?
Right here.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Oh, you're cool.
It's a little icon.
The colors that are on the screen.
Yeah, Tess will pull them up for you. So now we need to pull over Sister of Mornings
Oh, it's back here.
into midweek.
It's charging. There.
There you go. Alright, cool. So Sister of Mornings up there. So now we need to open it for editing. So use your modifier buttons to go ahead and open it.
Oh my goodness, I missed that
This
part.
is how you act like Rachel.
So modifiers, just hold them down until you see it. It'll say edit up here.
So you hold these two down.
Spotlight.
Nope, just one.
So you go
Yeah.
to media.
So see how it says edit? Now you hit that top button for edit. So there you go. And it hits it. And
So
it
you
opens.
hit that.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you see if I hit like green, it tells me that button is now release. Now it's jump.
And when you say release, what does that mean? That means like we can edit in there?
Release basically turns off the queue.
Oh, okay.
So see the queue's off now.
Oh, okay, I see.
So it's still open for editing, but it's off. So now go ahead and click your queue on there. Click like song 1.
Folder.
Hit link. So that it links to live. There you go. Boom.
Okay.
So now you can edit song 1. Song 1 actually
And
looks
the, and the
fine.
ones you want us to edit is this area.
And there's one that says
Okay.
Rachel
Yep.
Brogan.
Song 1
Yeah,
actually looks
control.
good,
You have to learn how
so
to find
we
it.
don't, doesn't look like we need to change that. Tess, can you go to song 2?
Song 2.
Yeah.
And we don't have to save anything if we didn't change anything, right?
No.
Okay.
You'll save it all at the very end.
Okay, we go to song 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw this mod out of the window.
Is that song 2?
That's still song 1, I think.
Hold on.
That's a different one. That's song 2, I think.
So like
It's blue and white, pretty much.
blue and white.
Blue, yeah, blue and yellow, white-ish.
So do I highlight the whole thing? What do you guys?
No, what I usually do is I select lights. So
What video? What is
I
it?
start with these lights.
Okay.
So I can start with those and then kind of
Just kind of picking around.
change around. Yeah, like you can select these reds.
I think those colors are fun.
Image.
Kind of, yeah, make them match. You can maybe do the bottom of the truss warmers.
He's like, let's do these.
Let's do those. We like those. Those are good.
And then just pick whatever would match that.
And there you go. So now that song's done. You just go on to your next one.
If I can get
So you got close worship. I guess they usually you leave all that stuff the same.
So and then offering.
Yeah.
Offerings the same.
And then spotlight.
Sisterhood spotlight looks the same.
And then
Let's get, so hit this little bar up here and drag it forward.
this one.
That's your view of what you're viewing. Yeah, click and drag it forward.
Okay.
You got message and you got table.
That should be fine.
Okay, one of the things I didn't go over is if they have something special, inserting a new queue. Super easy, little green plus sign right there.
Okay.
So if you want to hit that real quick, you'll actually see it'll just add another queue. If you click queue,
Stretch.
you can rename it.
Okay.
If you click the time underneath, you can change
She's
the
gonna
time
call
that
it out.
it takes
She's
to
doing
fade
the
to that.
spotlight,
You can
so
change
I
everything
would
about
think
it.
it'll be around
And then basically you just
she
edit
does
that queue like you would any other queue.
Good.
Now, you can do that, yeah.
I
And
don't
you
know.
hit
She's
normal
just gonna
delete,
call
yeah.
it out. She's
And
just
boom,
gonna
it's fun.
say.
Or you can hit undo.
Okay.
Undo would work in that instance.
We're gonna need a new mouse before
Okay,
service.
so
Now another thing too is, real quick,
Okay,
if
and then the
say the message
PowerPoint?
set,
Is it?
like go to that, say,
That's
or
not
Sisterhood
space.
Spotlight, either one, yeah, message, say they need to do that after table.
Delete.
You could just
I
hit
say
Control
leave in
C
Sisterhood.
while that queue's highlighted, so if I did Control C, go to table and hit Control V, it'll add message after.
So to add a PowerPoint,
You can't just keep it on the one that's at.
What's that?
Just in case they switch it.
And
Well, I mean, if they have it so that they go back to the message set or something,
Sometimes
or you
they
need to have that queue come up again, you can do that. So, and then we just hit Control Z to
and
undo.
then it's 10/17 today's
so
date.
then what? You just save it and you're gonna
Mhm.
release,
So you
right?
just exit.
Exit first. Okay.
And
check
you
the
can
logo,
hit save and
make
release
sure
here.
It's this
Or you
one.
can just hit
check the
save.
logo.
We don't necessarily need to release it, so we'll hit save. And then you're at the end of the list. We probably want to go to the pre-service at the beginning, so just hit play again and it should
worship
loop
is
around
click
for
on
you.
worship. And just see how
And
long
boom, it loops around to pre, starts at the beginning.
So anytime you
Good to
hit
go.
this when you're done, it always goes back.
9 minutes and 15.
On this queue list, yeah. On some queue lists, it'll tell just
No,
to release
Stacey's gonna
at the end.
And this
It
isn't
just
on a
ends.
timer, right? You have to manually change it.
Right.
Right. And what do you do to change it?
Just hit that play button.
Play.
Each one.
Yeah, just
And
look
then
through
this
it and
shows
see
you
how
here
it ends.
where you're at. You can
Yeah, and so like let's say all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're not gonna do, we're at welcome. This could be a little bit bigger. This could be a little smaller. Let's say we're at welcome and they say, hey, we're not gonna do song 1, we're gonna do, just go to song 2. You could just hit here and hit play song 2, and it'll skip. You can see it just skip the look, and they say, hey, we're gonna go back to song 1.
Because you know sometimes it changes here.
Okay.
Everything
so
changes. So.
probably the two of us will mess with the editing the most, and everybody else will
Do you have
do
the, this is the script.
And I recommend not locking the console back, disabling editing during service in case you have to change something. Wait till after, yeah, because in case you have to change something on the fly. So, in this will,
See where it ends.
She has all I do is
yeah, and you never want to be in that predicament though where that can happen. But say for instance, we open up the queue, we're playing right now, it's on song 1, and they say, hey, song 2 changed, it's going to be all red. If I hit song 2, you can see nothing changes, but everything I do right now is going to change song 2. If I select all these lights, it shows me, so like, for instance, this light right here, it shows me it's blue, even though it's yellow right now. It's saying it's blue in song 2.
Okay.
I could actually go through, select all these lights and say, hey, they're all red. I could just select red. Change it for song 2, hit exit, save, and when I go to song 2, it'll change it. That's what blind's for.
Okay.
So now if I hit link, it's going to jump to that. And so link is really what you want to hit when you're doing your cues in the morning when you're editing them, so you can actually see them.
Okay. And what is? Why would you mess with these certain?
It's just to adjust
So those are, yeah, your face lighting. In these, you have your stage light, and your stage light is all lighting, all your front end. Yeah. Your key light is just those center Lecos, the black lights that just hit the center. So like I think I mean, honestly, for Sister Doll, you guys would really use, because they don't do live music, all you guys would really use key light. Unless they decide to start walking around a lot, you can actually fade in stage with key light on, even though it has key lights.
Oh, gotcha.
You can, it's called HTP,